Good evening all and welcome. Tonight I present to you 5 stalker stories that are certainly going to give you chills. And I'd like to give a special thank you to Let's Read for joining us in tonight's video. But without further ado, it's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. I'm going to start this story by taking you back to June 3 years ago. My partner Johnny comes upstairs and finds it's cute. I'm checking him out on OkCupid. I'm confused as I haven't logged in lately, like in months. How could I have been looking at his account? I log in and check it out. There's a list of 7 or so people that have been checked out from my account today. Johnny's included, and also someone I work with. Well, that's embarrassing. Nope, wasn't me. Time to change my password. The next day at work I was sure to bring it up and laugh about the fact that my OkCupid account was hacked to the person who was in my view list. I didn't want this person thinking I actually looked at his account. We worked too closely together and I already get the impression he may see me as more than his boss. It always pleased him that his luggage tags printed his middle name and first initial as Chris T. This is not the type of person who should see his name written out, like he's God's gift to Earth, so I'll refer to him as Chris. Chris just laughed off the OkCupid hacking comment I made. I found it strange he had no questions or comments on the subject. Most people would at least ask if you changed your password, but there was nothing from Chris. Regardless, I brushed off the situation. A few days later, I was out of office for work, and Johnny messages me saying it happened again, that I checked him out on OkCupid. No, I didn't, but I changed my password again anyway. July. It's a weekend. I'm having a lazy morning in bed with Johnny when I get a Facebook notification. Your account has been logged into from a new location. The IP address points to Chris's hometown. Now my heart was racing. What the hell's going on? I take care of the Facebook password and screenshot the notification. Later that night, I get a text from Chris. Happy 4th, boss, lol. I assume he's drunk. I'm worried about being caught having his access to my Facebook revoked so quickly. But no, it can't be him doing this. It's just a coincidence, right? Johnny is convinced it's Chris, but that means someone I work with on a very small team is targeting me. This will make work nearly impossible. I can't talk to anyone at work about this. I'll have no way to run my department. The situation will get minimized. Chris drank a lot. I'd seen it at work events, or when we traveled just the two of us. He often got out of hand, but everyone brushed it off. He's young. It was funny. We've all had those nights. But as long as you showed up to work the next day, it's fine. I brought it up to him once. Hey Chris, you need to be more cautious about how much you drink at work events. He didn't speak to me for 3 days. I offended him. Told him that he's not allowed to have fun at work events. He told me when he finally snapped at me, and I recoiled. He's 3 times my size, and we're already in a secluded space at work. One time while traveling with just the 2 of us, I got very sick. I told him I couldn't make it out for dinner, so Chris offered to pick something up from a nearby store. He knocked on my door, handed me the water he got me, and tried to make small talk as I thanked him and indicated I was going to lay down. It was apparent by his stance in my hotel room doorway. He wished to come in. He moved an inch closer, and I said goodnight and shut my door and locked every door I could. It wasn't the only time he made me feel uncomfortable. I hadn't noticed any other accounts being hacked for a while. I was cautious around Chris, even disassociated when I could. I avoided work outings if he was going. would back out of lunch plans that he decided to go to once he knew I was going. But we often had to work very closely regardless. We were a team after all. I couldn't do my job without him, nor he without me. October evaporated away, which led us to November. Johnny was online checking out his FetLife account one evening. He saw I was also online via the old messenger they used to have. Johnny asks me if I'm logged in. I'm not. Again, my heart is racing. It's different this time though. The violations are beginning to feel commonplace, normal, expected. But this hacking is extreme. No one outside my FetLife friends knows about this account. Definitely no one I work with. And there's some faceless nude photos of me there. I reach out to FetLife. They gave me the IP address of the last login. It's the same as the Facebook hack. Crap. I can't avoid this anymore. I can't pretend it's just coincidences anymore, but I need proof it's Chris. All I have is an IP address and intuition. I can't take that to HR. The police, perhaps? Will they help or make matters worse if they need to contact my employer? I start looking into the login history of any account that tracks it. My bank account. Why, there's an iPhone logging into it daily. I don't have an iPhone, but Chris does. Crap. This is real. This is happening, and I don't know what to do. I call the bank while at work and ask them about the unknown login. Chris is at his desk right next to mine. The conversation is easily overheard, and I hang up with the bank. They can't help. Chris doesn't say a thing. Under normal conditions, a co-worker might inquire, perhaps. Wow, is everything okay? Did you change your password? Is your money missing? But no. Nothing from him, though. It's a bit out of character. He's always interested in my personal life. The next weekend, I wake up to a phone call. The caller is calling from my phone number. My heart skips a beat, but I answer. No one responds. I just hear breathing. That's it. I've had it. I'm losing my sanity. I spent weeks, months researching IP addresses and how I might be able to use the only info I have. I lost sleep, I can't focus at work, and Johnny is worried about me and my safety, and I am too. But what can I do? Johnny suggests we go call the police. I don't want to, but I am at a dead end, and agree. The officer is kinder and more receptive to my situation than I expected. This serves as a reminder to me that it is a big deal, and I shouldn't minimize it in my own thoughts. She takes the report, every detail. They will use the IP to subpoena the ISP. Weeks go by. The officer on my case claims there's no crime. The ISP records were never obtained. December rolls around. My work email keeps doing this strange thing. Messages I've read keep being marked as unread. Weird. Is it him? Or just the multiple devices I use to check it on? I'm unsure. I can't tell. The server doesn't keep a login history that I can see. Should I talk to IT? I don't know them well. Will they help? But that would make this situation real and known at work. No, not yet. I can't bring myself to do it. I can't do this anymore. My heart is constantly racing. The slightest noise sends me into panic. I get a security camera for my front door and worry a bit less when I hear the door slam from the wind or when the dogs bark at something they hear. I'm becoming comfortable living in fear. As much as it is impacting my health, at least I have the pepper spray John got me, and I carry it whenever I'm outside. Chris and I have shared an account we use for work. Maybe I can get an IP address from that. If it matches, that's some proof, right? Dead ends. What if I sent him an IP tracker? I've learned that you can place an invisible pixel in an email and it will send you the IP address of where it was read. All I have of Chris is his work email and a Gmail. I test both on myself, of course. I can't take the risk of him figuring out I'm onto him. Damn it. Our work email blocks it, and Gmail reroutes it to their HQ. Another dead end. More hours, days, and weeks pass. I've called private investigators, and they're all impressed I've tried the tactics they already have at their disposal. I feel confident that I'm doing all I can, but more lost that the professionals can't help. February comes in. One last attempt. It's a week before I have a 7-day out-of-country trip with Chris. It's with a large group this time, but I'll be working very close, too close, with him. I sent Chris an email with a shortened link that will track what IP address it was when it's clicked from. I've tested this and it seemed to work, but I'm shaking. What if it tips him off? What if he knows I'm onto him and he attacks me at work? What do I send him to get him to click? I find a local event that this particular breed of neckbeard would be interested in. Hey Chris, saw this and thought you might be interested. 5 minutes later, Chris replies. Pure panic, no excitement, maybe a mix of both sets in. I don't care what the reply says. I check the IP tracker. It got a hit. I'm shaking. I can barely type or hold my phone. It's the same IP address as the Facebook and FetLife hack. I got it. I have the proof I need. It's Chris who's been stalking me via my accounts. My intuition was right. As much as I didn't want it to be confirmed as him, it was. There's relief. A weight had been removed. But then it sets back in. What do I do now? Go to HR? Back to the police? We've got that trip coming up. I need the team there to do the job. I'll wait till after I'm back. It's not that bad. I'm used to living like this now. Johnny thinks I'm insane for considering it. He's right. I am. I've lost touch with reality. This situation has me unable to determine what levels of uncomfortable one can and should deal with. A night of debate, and I made my decision. I won't wait. I'll do it now. I text my boss, Jay, the next day asking him to meet me for lunch on Sunday. I need to talk to you away from the office. This is not a normal request. We're close at work, but this is bizarre to him. He tells me I'm scaring him. I wish I could tell him not to worry. The following day we meet for lunch. I'm so nervous that I could vomit. This is it. This makes this all real now. I'd tell him everything. I'm worried he may minimize the issue. Chris is just a kid. He didn't mean anything. I'll talk to him tomorrow. After I finish speaking, Jay is at a loss for words. We have a plan in place to take this to HR tomorrow, and he's already helping me find someone to replace Chris on our work trip. Again, I'm relieved and nervous at the same time. It's all going down tomorrow. 7 months of living in fear, and I can finally see an end. Monday rolls around, pepper spray in pocket, and I picked out a work outfit that would conceal it today. Jay calls me and asks me a question. I don't remember what, but I take it as an invitation to go to his office. Anything to get away from the person I now know, without a doubt, has been hacking and stalking me. Jay wasn't expecting me, but understood. The department head is in his office. Jay is about to inform him of my situation. Having my story told by a third party was surreal. I filled in the details where needed and gave them the folder of evidence that I had collected to the HR. Screenshots, IP addresses, written accounts of the timeline up to the point, the emails from Chris confirming his involvement, and the info from the IP tracker. The day is a haze. I was at HR's office at least twice, saw the police drive through the campus, and had to fight my way with the HR director. He didn't feel I had enough evidence to prove the email I sent to Chris's Gmail was actually the Chris that worked here. I dug through my work email and bam, he emailed my work email from his Gmail account. Once. Enough evidence for our non-believer. Hours go by. It was almost 3 p.m. What the hell was going on? If I keep leaving my desk, Chris will know something's up. I can't call HR and ask. He'll hear the conversation. Chris walks over to me "Oh crap," he says. He's shoving his work phone into my face too close for comfort. He got an invite to go to HR for 4. I'm screaming inside. No one else is around. If he's going to do something to me, now is the time. That notice is the forewarning of, "You're being fired." That's how they do it at my job. I manage to look concerned and tell him, "I'll let you know if I get one," insinuating maybe our team is being let go, not just him. He walks away. No idea where to. I sit at my desk, shaking in fear. I don't know when he will return. How could HR betray me like this? They know the situation. Damn it, they should have warned me if they were about to send it. I could have fled. I could have gone somewhere safe. Mike stops by my desk, just to say hi and offer me some leftover catering. But I can't eat right now. In this moment, Mike has offered me so much more than the leftovers. He has no idea what was going on but can see in my face something is wrong. I ask to walk back to his office with him. Chris will never find me there. It's got to be done by now. I know Chris will be escorted back to gather his things. I do not want to be there for that. I sneak into Jay's office. He checks the area for me and Chris is gone. I heard from HR. As per HR, I'm not allowed to speak to anyone as to why Chris was fired. Are they serious? This leaves me so vulnerable. If Chris decides to come back to work, no one would stop him. In fact, they would welcome him with open arms. And I'm left looking like the monster that fired the nice, quiet kid. That week, the IT department took a few extra days to gather Chris's devices. I had time to look through them during that period. The days before our trip was one of so much discovery. Not just what I found on his computer, but what I learned from the people around me. The day after he was fired, I looked into his laptop. IT had no issues getting me into his files. I was Chris's boss, so I needed to see his work. His picture folder, a lot of personal stuff, stupid memes, vacation pictures, screenshots of the naked cam girls he chatted with, and me. Some pictures I had never seen before, some I had. The pictures I was familiar with were from a cruise I went on months earlier with Johnny. Only these were the ones I deleted. I had a GoPro set to take pictures every 10 seconds that hung from my wrist. While walking around, I inadvertently took up close-ups from my arse in a swimsuit. Upon importing my vacation pictures, I deleted those from my computer. Why were they still on the card? Then there were some pictures from my Google account. Well, it was a picture of a screen. He got into my Google account too? Why didn't I catch that one? Then the ones I had never seen. Pictures that had been taken around the office and on work trips, me at my desk, me bent over setting up gear, a close-up, a hint of cleavage shot from above. His phone was more of the same. A close-up of my arse while he sat behind me during a struggle with an AV rack in a closet while in a dress. Video from under a table during a meeting when I'm wearing a skirt. Zoomed in upskirt pictures. Pictures of dates I had written on a post-it. Pictures of my phone settings showing my FetLife account. The nausea sets in again. I remember all these moments in the pictures he'd taken of me. Him nonchalantly on his phone looking like he was slacking off or answering an email. Little did I know he was filling his spank bank with images of me during work hours and keeping a record of my days off. The creep. I got into his browser history and it was sickening. He searched how to hack someone's text messages. He stalked friends of mine on Facebook as well as my partner. He got into my Amazon, Gmail, FetLife, work email, OkCupid and bank account. He read old emails of past relationships, looked at the places I visited, and stalked images from events I go to. There was hard evidence now. I took it to the local police near work. They couldn't handle it, so I went to the county prosecutor's office. Most people wouldn't think of that. It was suggested by a friend of Johnny's. They had a computer forensics department and could handle the case. I met with an amazing detective. He took my packet of evidence and listened to the whole story. It was becoming easier to tell now, especially when it's to focus on the facts. I knew I couldn't tell the people I worked with why Chris was fired, but for my safety, I knew I had to tell a few people, just the ones closest to me. Once they knew the story, I heard things from them like, Chris would complain you didn't pay him enough. He also lied and said he made half of what he actually did. I even fought to get him above normal rises for 2 years. He lied and said I would withhold work from him. They usually responded to him by telling him to ask to my boss or HR. Obviously he never did. You can't take lies to HR nor directors. He spread lies around the office, coercing co-workers to take his side when I wasn't aware there was sides to be had. From these people, I learnt more about the obsession Chris had with me. He craved to have power over me. He showed them my FetLife profile and bragged about how compatible we were on OkCupid. He even spoke about being obsessed with my partner. He told them how he tried to catfish me on Reddit. I couldn't blame them though. Chris had laid the groundwork and a bit of gaslighting on them. I was a bad person and Chris was their friend. Chris was really good at playing the victim and never was able to take any self-responsibility. 9 months went by. I followed up with the detective often. It took a while to subpoena his devices from my company, then run forensics. In early September, I got a call from the detective. They arrested Chris. They showed up early in the morning at his house where he still lived with his parents and admitted to everything. He took the card from the GoPro and recovered the images. He got my passwords once while I walked away from my computer. He went through my phone when it was left at my desk. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. The shock to his family of the type of person he actually is. Him cowering while in handcuffs, face to face with what he'd done. No hiding behind a computer screen anymore. I was on vacation when this happened. I remember thinking, it's not long now till everyone at work will know. He's got a court date set. By then it's public record. I can't help if people know at that point. I didn't have to wait that long though. Later that day, co-workers started sending me a link. Hey, didn't you work with this guy? What a creep. The link was sent to the county prosecutor's PR page, announcing Chris's arrest, mugshots and all. I came back to work and was able to have the truth come out, and it was liberating. It took another 9 months for his final court date. I worked with prosecutors during that time to determine how I wanted to proceed. I opted for a probation period, instead of going through trial and fighting for jail time. While Chris deserves the jail time, he wasn't worth my time nor effort, and trial would give him a slim chance of getting off scot-free. Also this way, he would get some much-needed counseling. 3 years no contact with me, 3 years sexual offense counseling, and 3 years of checking in with a probation officer. This way, I can at least hope he will come out understanding that what he did was unacceptable, and fingers crossed he will never do it again to another living being. I knew there was no chance of rehab in jail. During the hearing, I of course was nervous. I didn't want to see Chris, but I knew whatever I was feeling, he was feeling 1,000 times worse. I didn't have to go, but knew I would regret it if I didn't. With my fiancé Johnny at my side, I watched as he got up in front of the judge after he cried in the courtroom and agreed to the terms of his sentence. His mum glared at me the whole time, as though this was all my fault. So that's where he gets it from.
I spent the first 10 years of my life in the city of San Jose, California. When my mother could afford it, she would take me to a theme park in the neighboring town of Sunnyvale called Great America. We went there about once or twice a year. The rides were fun, the food was good, and I wasn't paying, so I had a good time whenever we went. Except once, at around age 7. About an hour or two into the day, I got that feeling. You know the one, when you get that sneaking suspicion that someone you can't see is watching your every move. I mentioned it to my mom, and she said I was imagining things. We went on about our day, and it was fun, as usual, but I couldn't shake that feeling. All day it got steadily worse, until I was literally begging my mom to take me home. Eventually she obliged, but couldn't figure out what had gotten into me. Now, a little backstory. My parents got divorced when I was only a baby. When I was about 11, they reconnected and decided to get back together, and so we moved into this stupid little town up north called Eureka. My dad's dad, I refuse to refer to him as my grandfather, lived in the same town and never talked to anyone, not even my dad. He was, in every sense of the word, a recluse. He passed away not long after we moved there, and my dad, being his next of kin, was tasked with going through his things. The first word that came to mind when we entered the house was paranoid. There was at least one rifle in every room of the house, sometimes 2 or 3. There was a Colt 45 under his pillow, another under the driver's seat of his car, and a snub-nosed .38 in a Ziploc bag in the back pot of the toilet. Cameras were mounted on every exterior wall, and boxes upon boxes of VHS tapes with the collected recordings from these cameras, some of which were nearly worn out from repeated viewing. Suddenly, from the master bedroom, I hear my mom yell. I ran to the bedroom, and what I saw in my mom's hand shocked me to the core. It was a photo of me and my mother at the theme park. I was around 7, walking along with a corn dog in one hand, drink in the other, and I had a suspicious look on my face. I instantly remembered that day. My mother said that she felt faint and left the room. As it turned out, there were around 30 pictures of us from that day, as well as some from other times and places, some of them taken from within arm's reach. I'd never felt more creeped out in my life, and haven't since. I don't know why he was spying on us. I'm not sure. I want to.
Before I begin, I'm going to say that I'm a 19-year-old man. I'm working a full-time job. I have since moved out of the place that this incident occurred in. What happened took place when I was about 6 years old. I lived in a decent neighborhood. We did have the occasional creepy person that would walk or bike by. We also had some apartment buildings where the people living there were heavy into drugs, but didn't bother anyone. They were nice people to talk to and frequently mentioned they were into this stuff. They never bothered me, so I didn't care. Now, enough with the background. The house I lived in at that point was very decent size. My dad also built a garage, a huge garage. Now, this is where that happened. The garage was huge. It had enough space for 3 vehicles and rafters on the ceiling for storage of seasonal stuff, Halloween and Christmas, etc. Oh, and it takes place in December, in Atlantic Canada, and in Atlantic Canada we get some pretty nasty snowstorms and blizzards. On a day in December, I was being a little kid in the snow, and my dad was working in the garage on one of his projects. He had gotten thirsty and went into the house to grab a drink. When he came back out, he asked if I had gone into the garage. I asked why, and he said that there were footprints in the snow leading into the garage that he didn't think were his. I said no, and we both thought nothing of it. That evening, my dad and I went to bed early. My mum works late and came home late that night and saw some of my toys that were in the rafters stored away were on the garage floor. She thought nothing of it, moved them and parked the vehicle in the garage, closed the garage door and went into the house, watched some TV and went to bed. Now my dad wakes up very early, 4 a.m. every morning, as he has to be at work at 5, and the garage door was open when he woke up, so naturally he was angry. He wakes up everyone and goes out to the garage and comes back in, and is freaking out. A lot of our expensive equipment was missing. We called the cops. The outside lights were flicked on, and we saw the same mysterious footsteps leading to the garage earlier, leading into the backyard and into the forestry behind my house. The cops searched the garage, and my mum brought up the toys falling from the rafters. The cops asked to borrow a ladder and went up to check. They found a gun, a meat cleaver, 3 condoms, 2 of which were used, and I did not sleep for a week. I was terrified. They caught the guy 2 weeks later trying to sell all of my dad's equipment at a pawn shop. He confessed to everything. He said he broke into other houses on the street. He also started to watch our house for a whole month to learn our routines, so he wouldn't get caught. He had the weapons just in case, and he said that he chose to use the condoms when he saw my mum. He is currently serving a 15-year prison sentence. I don't want to know what would have happened if my mum, dad, or I had seen him.
I work at an outdoor mall in a great neighborhood. You'd assume that it's safe as hell to be here, but then again, you just can't be sure anymore. There are creepy people everywhere, and I just can't help shake the feeling that this isn't my last encounter with this man. I'm 19 years old, and I work at a kiosk that sells all kinds of wonky jewelry. It's usually teens, young adults, and occasionally some older adults that shop with us. Every once in a while, this man comes up to the kiosk, easily recognizable. Same leather jacket, crinkled corners of his eyes, one front tooth shorter than the other, same slouched way of walking. He's usually harmless, but oh my good God, the last few times he's come by have made me so uncomfortable. I greet every customer with, "Hey, can I help you find anything?" And most of them say they're just looking. He always smiles at me and says, "Just looking, darling." At first it was fine. I didn't care whatsoever. He seemed like a harmless 50 or so year old man. He always spent a very long time looking at the display and never bought anything. Most of the time I'm working the night shift. At the kiosk, well, I'm surrounded by other shoppers and other kiosk workers. Mine is kinda all by itself in between two empty ones in the back. The mall sales have been going downhill in the last few years, and I'm usually left alone, minus the friendly security woman that stops by and chats with me on her rounds. She comes by every 30 minutes or so, and she's one of the few friends I have at work. The only stores in my view are a Reebok and a Macy's. A few nights ago, I was sitting at my kiosk, bored out of my mind, and the security lady had already continued on her way. I had scrolled through Reddit already and was getting ready to open up Netflix and continue watching Terrace House, when I hear footsteps coming up. I look up to see the creepy man staring at me, but not actually at the kiosk yet. I wave at him, and he gives a little smile, but one that sends chills down my spine. A customer walks up, and I immediately jump at the chance to help them, trying to shake the creepy feeling that I had. After I had checked out the customer and written down the receipt, I glanced up and see the man still staring at me. Before I could say anything, he started walking over, taking my eye contact as permission to come join me. "Evening, darling," he said, doing an almost bow. "Good evening," I told him. He proceeded to do his usual, checking the display, not buying anything. Instead of walking around the cart, he stayed by the register where I was, walked behind my chair to check the sides, but never went where he couldn't see me. Then he started asking questions like we were longtime friends. "So, darling, do you have a boyfriend?" I kind of guffawed at that because I've been single for over a year now. I told him no, I didn't have a boyfriend, but there was a checkout girl that I found pretty damn cute in my local grocery store. "I see," he said. "Do you have any plans after work?" he asked me. I was getting uneasy at this point, but I told him yes, I was going to a party. "You gonna hook up with any boys?" he asked, and my jaw dropped. Whether or not I was hooking up with any boys was in no way any of his business, but I just told him no. He smiled a little bit and said, "Good. You're too pretty for them little boys anyways." He faced me again and came up to hug me. Until this point, I hadn't realized my heart rate increasing, and it only became apparent after I found it harder to breathe. Before he could actually do so, Linda, the security guard, walked up and glared at him. "Sir, if you're not going to be buying anything from this young woman, I suggest you go loiter somewhere else." He stiffened at the sound of Linda's voice. She's a very intimidating woman, and he left. "You all right, honey?" she asked me, and I shrugged. "He's always here," I told her, and she shook her head. "Let me and Russ walk you to your car after work, okay?" I nodded, relieved that she offered without me having to ask. The rest of my shift is fine. I get through it and manage to make my bosses a bit of money. At 10 o'clock on the dot, Linda and her boyfriend Russ are at my kiosk. They ask me to pack up my purse and then walk me to my little Prius. They wait for me to drive away as well. On my way to the party, I stop by a gas station to fill up the tank. As I'm waiting for it to fill, I glance over and see the man from the mall at the mini-mart. He's buying a pack of cigarettes and he looks out the window and sees me. When he does, he smiles and waves, holds up one finger asking me to wait a minute. I don't. I yank out the fuel hose and jump in my car, booking it out of there. I take several detours before arriving 30 minutes late to the party. I had to make sure I would lose him before showing up there. It's been a few nights since that happened, and the only reason I'm writing now is because I am actually working the morning shift, and I just saw him walk out of the Macy's across from me. Linda has someone biking around this side of the mall, so he won't come near me today. But keep me in your thoughts, everyone.
I met this guy in a nightclub, and he seemed nice enough. Good-looking, friendly. We exchanged numbers, and at the end of the night, I looked forward to meeting him again. Nothing unusual. I was 18 and he was in his early 20s. I spent a lot of time in the clubs, so I was comfortable with everything. About a week passed and we had sent a few texts and decided to meet for a drink. He offered to pick me up from my house, but as I didn't know him well, I arranged to meet him by the entrance to a hotel on the main road near my house. We went to a pub. I had plans to meet friends at about 9, so we only stayed an hour and he took me to where I was meeting my friend. We had a short kiss, then left. I was glad it was over, as he was actually not interesting, boring in fact. He added me on Facebook and I accepted, but didn't think we'd talk much after that. But I was very wrong. A month or so passed after this, and we didn't meet again until one night in town, where we met by chance. He told me he couldn't stop thinking about me. I was drunk and foolishly kissed him, and we parted ways again. Some days later, it says on Facebook that he is in a relationship. At least this meant he wasn't interested in me anymore, I thought. However, it was not long after this that he sent me a text that read, "I'm obsessed with you." I told him to stop at this point, as he had a girlfriend. He passed it off as being flirty, and told me to get over it. For about 6 months after this, every few weeks he would text me. After the first time this happened, he sent incredibly graphic details of how he wanted to do me. I deleted him on Facebook and kept asking him to stop. Sometimes he would include naked pictures too. Keep in mind, I never got further than a kiss with this guy. He texted me once about 10 months into his relationship while on holiday with his girlfriend and told me he wished it was me, not her. Again, I told him to stop. Each time I turned him down, he'd get annoyed and tell me he never wanted to speak with me again. But sure enough, it was actually less than a month, and I'd get a random naked picture or something. All the messages I could have ignored, but one night I hadn't heard from him in a few weeks and I was home alone. My parents were on holiday. I hadn't told anyone that, and about 1 a.m. my phone rings. It's him. So I hang up. These are the text messages that followed. "Hey, let me in. I'm outside your house." "No, you're not. Leave me alone." "I am. I know you're alone. Let me in." And then he described some stuff he wanted to do with me. "Leave me the hell alone. I'm not home alone anyway. You're wrong. You don't even know where I live." "I do. I'm outside your house. Your room is the one with the red curtains." This was an accurate fact. "No, it isn't. You've never been to my house." "I picked you up the first time we went out. From somewhere about a 10-minute walk away. You've never been to my house." I looked out my bedroom window, and there was no one to be seen. "I just saw your curtains move. Let me in." I ran around the house and turned on all the lights at the front. I don't know why. I guess I thought it would put him off. You just turned the lights off. I know you're there. I was crying a lot at this point, and the last text I sent was, "Leave right now, or I'm calling the police. If I ever see you, hear from you, or have any contact with you again, I will call them." His reply, "You don't need to be a witch about it. I'll go." I didn't hear from him again, but that whole thing lasted almost 2 years from just one very short date. I still get really nervous when I see someone who looks similar now. I still don't know how he knew where my house was, or that my parents were away that night. I can only assume he followed me. Hey guys, it's Mort here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you did enjoy tonight's video, as I thought these stories were very good. Some truly exceptional stories regarding stalkers. Huge thanks as always to Let's Read for joining us in tonight's video. If you'd like to hear more from him, link in the description. We actually did a video over on his channel. I narrate the final story of his video, which you can check out following the link. I would like to extend a huge thank you to my members and patrons. You guys are amazing, and I really do appreciate everything. But that's it from me. Stay awesome, and I'll see you tomorrow for a huge compilation. Good night.